Outrage in U.S. as black man is shot in the head while handcuffed in police car. We're going to be going over all that. An amazing video we aired last night of an abortionist saying, hey, we're getting rid of ugly black babies. Shut up. And, man, I've had liberal black folks on this show, and they just say, well, I like abortion. But then a black guy gets shot in the head. It's the end of the world. But, you know, kill. More blacks have been killed since Roe v. Wade than have been born. And I'm like, I don't want to kill the black people. And they're like, well, that's because you're racist. If you really love me and we're liberal, you'd want to chop me up. So we're going to be talking about that. Yeah, in closing, David Knight here in studio with us. We've got Holland Vandennieuwenhof coming up in the third hour. What do you think of the InfoWars Command Center? I know we're pretty close to working out getting you down here in the fall. What do you think of Infowars.com and seeing the inside of this place?
It's amazing. It really is kind of surreal to be here with you after watching you on TV and listening to it. But it's a real professional operation. It's great.
Well, we're trying to be professional.
It is. Well, it is. It is very professional.
If you do end up being a reporter down here, which I think, you know, again, is 95% there or so, what are you looking forward to doing most?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that really puts people in it is documentaries. And so, you know, I'd like to try to fill in some details, you know, for people who are new listeners, try to give them a background. And a lot of the stuff, you throw a lot of terms out that, you know, people who've been listening for a while understand. But, you know, maybe pull some stuff in from your documentaries, do some special reports or whatever to give people kind of a glossary. No, I
agree. I've always said this. My wife said, everybody, we need a frequently asked questions area, the basics. What is the New World Order? Right. What is Agenda 21? What is false flag? What is the attack on the family?
Right, right. Because you've gone into a lot of detail on that on a lot of the documentaries. But, you know, without somebody sitting all the way through the documentary, just pulling out something that they can get a handle on.
We need lots of 10-minute blurblets.
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
Exactly. That's why I'm just like all in. We're going to get 6 reporters to make reports, mini documentaries. I really want to get a big enough crew here where I can go back to documentary filmmaking. It's been 2 years just launching the nightly news, trying to get built up to this level, trying to raise the capital, spending time on sales. I never used to even worry about capitalizing. Now I'm like, I'm going to try to get as much money in here as I can so we can expand and be strong in the face of this. And they could shut us down tomorrow, but that will only blow up in their face. But the point is, I don't want to look back later and wish I'd have done more.
Well, I think your newspaper is a great idea. I mean, in the area where I live now, Chapel Hill, we've got a very liberal, very Marxist paper, actually, called The Independent. And it would be a great counter to that. I think there'd be a lot of businesses that would be a lot more comfortable advertising with somebody that's all about.
Well, we need people to step up, and that's the whole franchisee plan. Once we beta test it and show people, it's already profitable the first month. It comes out in September. We're going to start printing it in about 3 weeks, or no, 2 weeks. Man, time's flying. But the point is that it'll be our news, but a space for the local news, and then people get half the ad space. And, I mean, that's going to be the plan.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, people are like, well, print's dying. It's dying because it's a bunch of propaganda. The establishment internet is dying, too.
Right, right. And talk radio. You know, there's a lot of talk radio where they just rehash talking points for Fox News. It's really, you know, people are turning that off.
It's controlled right-wing, just to control the constitutionalists.
Right, right, right. It's just a party voice.
You know, we were #1 in our Orlando station. #1 in the people meters. Great station. Went spoke there, had it was almost 2,000 people show up. And then they just changed formats. They said, yeah, we got top ratings. It's great, but we're going back to the other format. You know, that happens, but it's like we even get the top ratings and it isn't good enough. You know, we beat Rush Limbaugh in Orlando. Just absolutely. They went from like #6 in the ratings to #1 with me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Pulled the whole station up to #2. Just devastated the competition in a year. And then they just switched formats. We'll be back. Stay with us. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to play a report by Paul Joseph Watson here on air because he gives some of the background on an incredible video that's been picked up by the Daily Mail. The video is up at Infowars.com. Pro-life campaigners post video of abortion doctor saying his work helps get rid of ugly black babies. That is a quote, and we are going to be playing that coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're also going to play a brief report from last night's nightly news. with David Knight, who was just in studio with us last hour. That's coming up later in this hour. I want to open the phones up right now if you just joined us. Again, I'm your host, Alex Jones. It is Thursday, the 9th day of August, 2012. We're blasting out on over 115 AM and FM stations and simulcasting on global shortwave, as well as XM 166 and the free podcast every day after the show in the Listen tab at Infowars.com, as well as the live audio streams and the free iPhone, Android apps, also at the Listen page at Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. Our Twitter is twitter.com/RealAlexJones, one of many Twitters we have. And, of course, we have a whole bunch of Facebooks as well, where we update a lot of photos and news. You can notice there's a lot more activity from us on all of those fronts as we gear up here in the face of the globalist. Okay, I want to give the number out right now, the toll-free number to join us on air on any of the issues we covered in the last hour, or any of the news items that you've seen in the news you'd like to talk about. I noticed there were like 4 big bee attacks across the country here in the U.S. Imagine if that was a mass shooting, the type of hysteria we'd be hearing right now, because bees kill more people every year, as I've pointed out ad nauseum, than guns do in mass shootings. We also have a report up at Infowars.com by Matthew T. Williams, from Brothers in Arms gun show we do. How do you survive a theater-style shooting? That report is up there right now. Now, I mentioned this. I talked about it some in the last hour. And you heard me last Wednesday say I have 2 IRS whistleblowers. That one of them I've been talking to for 3 years, the other just in the last year or so. But in the last month or so, fast and furious, pun intended, we have been talking about just a mutiny at the biggest IRS center that covers 5 states, based in Austin, Texas, literally miles from where I sit. Giant IRS center, biggest employer in Austin, Texas, collection agency for the private Federal Reserve. They are being ordered, basically, with no due process even, to take retirees' homes as they've retroactively changed tax laws on pensions and things. That's got them upset, because they're even trying to take some of the IRS people's property, who have been retired but are back in the workforce. They are being ordered. Now, here's the big news that's not in the Associated Press and Reuters in the last 2 days. They have been forced to report on this because last week I said we were going to have a whistleblower report soon dealing with illegal aliens being given tax ID numbers. You heard us talk about it last week. And I was just collating the data, and actually I was mentioning this last week, and CJ just brought in a Accounting Today article, IRS discouraged employees from identifying fraudulent ITIN applications, the fake tax ID numbers, which they can then get tax returns, they can get tax paybacks for children, and they go after citizens if they do this. This is for illegal aliens. It's part of the incentive. And they report 2.9 million ITIN, or 6.8 billion in 2011. And the word is it's a lot bigger than this. I was told by one of these people about addresses in Austin where hundreds of thousands of dollars a year goes. I mean, they'll do 20, 30, 40, 50. That's what I was saying. And he ran in here. CJ was searched. What I was saying is a lot of this, these whistleblowers are like, look, some of this is already public. This is months ago. You got to look into it. You got to cover it. And then in the last few weeks, they're like, look, this is really coming to a head. Morale has collapsed because we realize we're doing total criminal activity, and our higher-ups say continue it. But here's what hasn't been broken yet. Well, let me hit this first. 150, and again, this is admitted now to have broken out of Austin. 154 mailing addresses that were used in 1,000 or more of the ITIN applications. 10 individual addresses were used for filing 53,994 tax returns, resulting in the processing of $86.4 million in fraudulent tax. See, I hadn't seen this. CJ ran in. I was talking about hundreds of thousands, 400, 500,000 at one Austin address. I was like, give me an example of the fraud. They go, 500,000 at one address, hundreds of tax returns. See, and I'm sorry, it's worse than that. This is just what my whistleblowers are telling me, because I'm right in the middle of the biggest IRS command center in the country. 154 mailing addresses were used 1,000 or more times on ITIN applications. 10 individual addresses were used for filing 53,994 tax returns. I mean, huge information here. And it's in the Associated Press. They were ordered to stand down. And they've told them they will prosecute them. What did the ATF head say 2 weeks ago? He put out a video that, by the way, said restricted. They weren't supposed to release it, as if they're the CIA, and said, we're going to grind down on you. That's a quote. We're going to come after you if you release any information. You must go through the agency. An agency that bombed Oklahoma City and blew up Waco? I mean, that's who did it, the ATF. We've talked to the cops that were there. I mean, these are killers, folks. These are murdering terrorists at the top. Now, is there some ATF that aren't criminals? Well, surely. That's why this stuff got leaked. But they're telling them, we're going to come after you. This is very, look, the sky's the limit. They've gotten away with all this. They'll get away with anything. And if you think all this is just going to end with Mitt Romney, you got another thing coming. Sure, it repudiates the system if you get a one-term president. But they have to go to jail to stop this. They're going for broke. Folks, they're shutting down a third of the power plants nationwide, conservatively right now. Do you have any idea what that's going to do to our economy? They knew full well when they put a 20% tax 2 years ago in California that it would take a 22% unemployment rate and push it past 30, and now it has. It's a value added that you don't see in the bottom line, but it's added into the price. You don't see them say it's a tax, but you get it. These are criminals, folks. We have been seized by absolute filth. And of course they give the illegal aliens free money. And they admit that's who's getting it. Citizens aren't allowed to. They want an incentive to bring the illegals here to vote for gun control and tyranny. We've got a report of 100 million Americans on welfare now. 100 million. And they think the government's their friend. As the economy gets worse and worse, many people say, okay, I drop out. I go on welfare. Meanwhile, the system is going after lemonade stands, gardens, Amish, people selling tomatoes on the side of the highway. And why is that? Because they cannot allow that. They're banning cash all over the country in secondhand sales. Don't believe me? Just type in state bans cash in secondhand sales. Multiple states. They're coming. They mean business. They're arresting women when their kids draw with chalk on the sidewalk. A son in a little house with tulips growing, like my daughters do on the sidewalk. You're arrested. You're fined. You're going to jail. Because they want normal people to learn to be prisoners. Just like in Russia, just like in Nazi Germany, just like in China or Cuba. It's over if we don't wake up now. They mean business. And they will announce guns are banned. They got the bills introduced. They will start a civil war in this country. These are larcenists. They enjoy the robbing banks. They just learned how to rob societies. They like the fact they're in danger. They like the fact that they could go to prison, like Madoff and Ken Lay. These are maniacs. Folks, criminals of this mastermind level do it because they like it, okay? People are like, well, why do they want to screw up the most successful economy in the world? Because they want to dominate everything. Don't you understand how much danger we're in? Do any of you have any idea how much danger we're in right now? We are in so much trouble. Now, here's the big news that is not in the, I mean, they admit it's being used to steal identities, but the IRS is not just in a mutiny and having a crisis of conscience like people had in Romania against Ceausescu or Operation Valkyrie against Hitler, but it's more political because they're really realizing just how criminal they are. I mean, they're complicit in it. Just saying, oh, whistleblowing, I can't tell you, that doesn't cover what they've done. They all know they're involved in crime right now. Massive crime that's ruining lives. I mean, they jerked the wedding rings off people's hands as they retroactively change laws to set you up. I mean, it's about imploding. Here's the big secret. Millions of people a year. The number is 5 million. And I'm actually finding this out there hidden in plain view. 5 million people the IRS goes after a year, at least, are having their identity taken by organized crime syndicates and governments. Russia, China, you name it. Our own